What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back to review from the world of John Wick, Ballerina, starring the very lethal and very lovely Ana de Armas. And I'll go spoiler-free initially, and I'll give you a verbal warning as well as a time code below when I go into any plot-specific details. But the short version of my review is, I liked it. And there were times where I liked it quite a bit. This movie was really fucking violent. And I like violence. And if you're a fan of the John Wick franchise, chances are you like violence too. But this is a slightly different creative team from the typical John Wick movies. This movie was directed by Len Wiseman and written by Shay Hatton and Derek Kolstad. And you'll recognize Len Wiseman's work from the Underworld franchise. And I haven't watched those movies in a long time. I think there are 5 of them. Maybe I saw the first 3. I can't really remember. But if you like seeing Kate Beckinsale in the Underworld franchise, well, then you're probably going to like Ana de Armas and the Ballerina flick because she is so fucking sexy, but at the same time, so balls through the wall badass. But she's not one of those modern day girl bosses where she can basically just walk through a room as bullets bounce off of her forehead. She gets all kinds of torn up in this movie: lacerations, bullet holes, burns, kicked through walls, you name it. She, whether it's through her training or through her missions, Ana de Armas was fucking game. And as I was watching this movie, I kept thinking to myself, while she's really enjoyed a fantastic Hollywood career over the last 10 years, a case could be made that she has been underutilized because to be a star in an action franchise, obviously they're not going to give you a lot of dialogue to work with, although they give her some good lines.
Anna, what's your favorite quote from John Wick?
Yeah.
It's all about your screen persona, striking cool poses, having incredibly expressive facial features where you can just be like dialed in. Like if you look at the old Bruce Lee movies from the 1970s, he did a hell of a lot just by staring daggers through people. And Ana de Armas, man, she showed up to fucking play in this movie, and it was just an absolute delight watching this girl who admittedly, as they constantly remind us in the movie, she's smaller and weaker than a lot of her opponents. But through her feminine wiles, as well as just completely, totally ruthless efficiency. I mean, there's no dirty trick that she won't resort to win a fight. It was just an absolute pleasure to watch her in action. And my crowd was cheering and clapping and reacting. Very rarely do you get that kind of crowd participation. And for reasons that I can't go into quite yet into my spoiler section, there was even one scene where I got goosebumps down my arm, and that's always a positive sign. And I think this movie is further evidence that the John Wick franchise is one of the best new franchises of the last decade. Obviously, it's been around for 11 years since the first John Wick movie. But when you think long and hard about what are the great new franchises not based on pre-existing IP, John Wick's definitely going to be a strong contender. And I like how they keep their budgets down and their ratings up. I don't know if all of them have been R-rated, but this one is definitely R-rated. It's pretty gruesome, but I'm reading that the budget is somewhere between 80 and 90 million, and I feel like that is the real sweet spot where it's cheap enough where you can take a few risks, but it's expensive enough where you can give us some serious balls through the wall action. I mean, I couldn't believe how many action scenes there were, almost to the point where I was like, maybe a little plot and story and drama might serve this movie because there's so much action. And when you compare that budget to Thunderbolts, which had a reported budget of $180 million, it's enough to make you wonder, like, is somebody stealing the money from Marvel behind their back? Because there was almost no action in that movie. I mean, famously, the movie ended with a group hug. I'm like, you know what? That's pretty fucking lame. John Wick Ballerina does not end with a group hug, I'm happy to report. It ends with ruthless fucking action, and that is what you want to see. And action on a few occasions that I'd never seen before. I'll go into this with my spoiler section, but when it comes to the action genre, there are only so many ways that you can punch and kick and shoot before you're like, all right, been there, done that, I've seen 100 million action movies, what do you got for me? But there were a few curveballs that this movie had in its back pocket. I was like, yeah, at the end of the movie, I gave a little whistle, I gave a little clap, and I was not alone. And don't get me wrong, this movie's got its fair share of flaws. It's probably a little on the long side. I think it comes in right at 2 hours, but perhaps by the end of the movie, I was starting to feel the length. Yeah, 2 hours and 5 minutes. I wouldn't have minded 20 minutes being shaved off of it, but once again, it's like, where do you cut? Because it's like so many amazing action scenes. I guess you could just condense and really focus on the essentials. And some of the villains are pretty one note, which is fine. I mean, if you're an action fan, you've sat through many action movies where the villains are like, I am the scary looking guy and I do mean evil things until you kill me. But when you have an actor like Gabriel Byrne in the mix, like Gabriel Byrne, he's been blowing my mind since I saw him in Excalibur's Uther Pendragon back in the early 80s. But obviously, when I think of Gabriel Byrne, I think of movies like Miller's Crossing, where I'm like, oh my God, like you were just an absolute Hall of Fame badass. He's fine as the villain, but no one's going to walk away from this movie saying that it's their favorite Gabriel Byrne performance. But I'm getting ahead of myself, as always, anytime I get excited about a movie. But here's the official premise from IMDb. An assassin trained in the traditions of the Ruska Roma organization sets out to seek revenge after her father's death. And there you have it. It's a good old-fashioned revenge saga. Once again, not exactly the world's most original premise for an action movie, where you have a little girl who watches her father, who's a badass in his own right, get mowed down, when she's a little girl, and then Ian McShane shows up and recruits her to start learning how to do a new kind of dance. I mean, obviously, she'd already been kind of like, she was already part of that world in that her father was living a life of violent crime and assassinations and that sort of thing. But then she really starts to train in earnest. And some of those training sequences were enough where I was like, all right, this movie's on the right path, because they're willing to show the lead suffer. When she's training in jiu-jitsu, they're getting put through the ringer, and it was incredibly satisfying. And maybe the movie takes a little bit too long to introduce Ana de Armas' official character, but when she finally shows up on screen, you're like, all right, hell yeah. Ana de Armas is going to command every single scene in this movie, where I knew when I saw No Time to Die that she would be good in this, because No Time to Die I thought was a pretty rotten Bond movie, except for the scene where Ana de Armas showed up and completely stole the show, where she was sexy and she was funny and she was lively and she looked great on camera, and she's obviously a very physical performer as well. And I don't know what kind of training she did for this movie, but I never noticed scenes where I was like, oh, that's clearly the stunt person, and that's clearly Ana de Armas. It looked like she was doing all of it. Like, it was a very convincing switch anytime they go over to the stunt person. Obviously, these movies are incredibly dangerous to make when you've got bullets flying and glass breaking and explosions all around. But it was just a relief to see real, physical, practical effects in action again, because so many action movies recently, they've had digital muzzle flare on guns, which is just like, please don't even use the gun in your movie if you're going to do digital muzzle flare, or digital blood when somebody gets shot. Like, once again, don't even shoot somebody in your movie if you're going to do digital blood. Give me practical, real, convincing blood, or leave it out of your movie. And this movie is bloody as hell. I mean, there's blood all over the goddamn place. And it was very satisfying. But also explosions. I've seen so many digital explosions in movies that just absolutely, they look dreadful. Maybe just because I grew up in the 1980s, where every movie had real deal pyrotechnics, like real deal mechanical special effects and practical effects being done on the set. But Len Wiseman, he's old school. He's been directing movies for 25 years or more. And I imagine he was like, all right, like, I know there are a lot of new techniques out there, but we're going to do this the old school way. And it's very satisfying when you see it on screen. And given how many positives there are when it comes to this movie, it's unfortunate that we have this situation surrounding the movie where, I don't know whose decision this was, but somebody who was handling the press screenings for the movie basically issued an embargo where they said, if you want to post a positive review of the movie, you can go ahead and post your review. But if you want to post a negative review, you'll have to wait until a certain embargo date. And I doubt they're the only people who've ever done that. I doubt Lionsgate is the only person who's been guilty of trying to manipulate the access media and that sort of thing. Perhaps they were just the first to kind of get caught so blatantly. But there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be sharpening their knives and are going to be gunning for this movie to tear it down, just from the way that the press screenings, how they kind of did people dirty. And obviously that has nothing to do with Ana de Armas. That has nothing to do with Keanu Reeves. That has nothing to do with the filmmakers involved in the movie. That has everything to do with the marketing department. But there are going to be a lot of people who are just hell-bent upon disliking this movie because they just find it so slimy that they would allow people to see the movie, but only allow them to post their review ahead of time if they're positive. But those kinds of trade-offs do get offered. Just to give you an example, this is a very small channel, and no one's ever said, hey, we're going to fly out to LA for a big Marvel premiere, but you have to say something nice about the movie. Those kinds of offers do not come away. But there was an independent filmmaker a couple years ago whose name I can't recall, nor can I even remember the movie, but I remember reaching out to his team saying I wanted to have a press screener for the movie because I wanted to review it. And they essentially said, well, if you do a trailer reaction video right now with a positive, in a positive light, well, then we'll go ahead and send you the press screener. And I was like, that just feels a little weird. And so I said, you know what, I'll just wait until the movie comes out. And then I ultimately ended up not reviewing it. But those kinds of I scratch your back, you scratch my back, scenarios do exist. But I do think this very small controversy surrounding Ballerina might have a negative impact on people's initial impressions until they see it in the flesh, and it's going into wide release tomorrow. And if you see it with a crowd, it's going to be hard not to have a good time, because like I said, my crowd, they were totally into it. Admittedly, it was a crowd showing up on opening night to watch it in Dolby. Also, if you get a chance to see it in Dolby, I don't know if this will be the case with every screening, but if you go to a Dolby theater, not only are the contrast between the lights and darks really, really beautiful, they have speakers in the seats. So when something happens, you feel it going through your body. I'd never had this experience before, but there's a scene in the movie with shotguns where I felt like I was getting shot in the butt by shotguns. And some people might say, you're getting into inappropriate territory here, but as I was watching, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I've ever wanted this experience or sought it out, but I'm having it nonetheless. So if you want to know what it feels like to be shot in the ass by a shotgun without any lingering, lasting harm, go see it in a Dolby theater, and you can thank me later if that is your thing. But getting back to the story and the plot, obviously what we're dealing with is a good old-fashioned revenge saga, but what makes it a little bit different from your typical action movies is that it is set within the world of John Wick. We've got the Continental Hotels. This movie actually takes place between movie 3 and movie 4, allowing John Wick to appear. And I understand there was a few reshoots with this movie, giving him a little more screen time, which I totally welcomed. I mean, Keanu Reeves, who knows if we'll ever see a John Wick Chapter 5 or not, but there's something just very refreshing about watching him lumbering into frame with those bad knees of his, and doing that thing with his little jacket when he blocks bullets. I'm like, dude, all right. In any case, it's ridiculous, but I love it all the same. But I've been watching Keanu Reeves in movies since the 1980s. Huge Keanu Reeves fan. But along for the ride, we have, obviously, Ian McShane, and we've got Angelica Houston, and we've got Lance Reddick in a small part, and a few new faces, which were very welcome as well, like Norman Reedus. Obviously, he's been more or less just like taking over TV for the last 15 years in the wonderful world of Walking Dead, or not so wonderful, depending upon your point of view of all the spin-offs and latest iterations. But Norman Reedus did get started in movies, and I like Norman Reedus periodically, and he was totally game for the part that they gave him. He's got a really good fight scene, and yeah, if you're a Norman Reedus fan, and I know he's one of the highest paid actors in TV, he definitely has legions of fans. I think you'll be very pleased with his character, Daniel Pine. But as far as some of the weaker performances are concerned, Angelica Houston wasn't necessarily at the top of her game, or maybe I was just distracted by the fact that now in her 70s, she's starting to look a lot like her father, John Huston. And John Huston's one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. He's one of my all-time favorite screen personas, and the story of his life is nothing short of legendary. But now that she's getting a little older, and in the movie she's smoking cigars, I was like, oh my God, if her hair got pulled back and they dyed it gray, she would look identical to her father. Obviously, it's a very different speaking voice because she's doing that kind of outrageous Russian accent in this movie. But I love Angelica Houston. I've been watching her in movies my entire life. But she wasn't necessarily the feature attraction. The feature attraction is just Ana de Armas, who just, like I said, in every single scene in which she appears, she commands your full attention. And she's so fucking pretty. I just wanted to scream. I managed to keep my emotions in check. But she's just sizzling, and there's a trend in modern movies right now, or some modern movies and some modern shows, where pretty actresses are made to look a little bit more frumpy, or they'll show up in sweatpants or a blue jean jacket, and their hair's not washed or combed and no makeup. And it's like, if you're lucky enough to be working with attractive actors, let them be attractive. Ana de Armas looks sizzling in every single frame of film, even if she's got, like I said, lacerations and bullet holes all over her body. She looks great in every single fucking scene in which she appears, and might be my favorite Ana de Armas performance, but I'll have to do some soul searching as to what her best role might be so far. And it was just a relief that the movie was entertaining as it was, because I had some reservations going into this movie due to the involvement of screenwriter Shay Hatton. While he might have written the third and fourth John Wick movie, both of which I liked and enjoyed quite a bit, he also worked on Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 by Zack Snyder, and if you follow this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I was not very fond of those movies and thought they were pretty embarrassing for everybody involved. I was like, all right, so I really have no idea what to expect. But Derek Kolstad, who also worked on this, wrote the very first John Wick, as well as Nobody. So yeah, all around, if you hire a director with a lot of experience with really sexy women beating the fuck out of people, and screenwriters who have written a lot of action movies, well then more or less you're going to be in very, very good hands. But if I were to offer one final criticism before my spoiler section, the movie could have used a little bit more of that John Wick style humor. And obviously, you don't want to turn it into a comedy. But one of the best scenes in the 4th chapter of John Wick was when he spends like 20 minutes battling his way up this fucking staircase, only to get to the top and get knocked down. And he rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. And it is one of the best physical stunts that I've seen in modern movies, where it was just ridiculous that he would roll like 600 steps and wearily get back to his feet and start the process all over again. The movie doesn't lean into those kinds of scenes, and obviously when you think about the John Wick franchise, you're going to think about your favorite scenes from John Wick 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's missing that stuff, but if you just want to see a very straightforward, gnarly, aggressive action movie, the movie totally delivers, and I'm going to go into a few specifics why in my spoiler section now, so last warning, 3, 2, 1, bail out now if you want to go into this movie totally fresh. So the first spoiler I want to get into is holy flamethrowers, Batman, because there is a flamethrower battle in this movie unlike anything I've ever seen. And I've been watching action movies my entire life. I've seen a lot of crazy shit. But I've never seen two people with flamethrowers go into war almost like lightsabers. And the way Ana de Armas is dispatching people with it, it is gnarly, and they're using real flame. Like at one point, one of the actors has his leg completely on fire while he's throwing high kicks at her, and like outside crescent kicks and all kinds of cool, crazy kicks, but his leg's on fire, and it just looks so goddamn badass. And I was like, yes, thank you. Real fire on real people. It looks cool. Do it safely. Don't hurt the actors. Don't hurt the stunt people, but audiences are paying for a thrill. What do you got? And this movie gives us a flamethrower battle, which the way it ends, it almost turns into like a superhero battle because Ana de Armas has a fire hose and the villain has a flamethrower, and they're slowly but surely approaching each other. It was like watching like two superheroes with opposite powers blasting each other, and inevitably you're going to have to figure out a solution. But that scene was really fucking cool. And I love the use of classical music in this. If you like Tchaikovsky, you're going to hear him a lot because she starts out loving and adoring ballet, and Swan Lake obviously is... I don't know if Tchaikovsky ever thought about his music being employed in action movies, but a great ballet, that music goes very, very well, or hand in glove, with kick-ass action scenes. So that shit was really fucking cool. But best of all was the way they employed Keanu Reeves as John Wick. In small doses, but very effective doses. And this movie avoided the dreaded trap of falling into the girl boss category. And if you ask 100 different people, what is a girl boss in movies? You're going to get 100 different answers. For me, a girl boss typically is a character with no flaws, no weaknesses. They're good at everything. They know everything, and they're constantly outwitting or outmaneuvering everybody in the movie, and it gets really boring, really predictable, really quickly. And in the case of like Marvel or Star Wars or whatever, usually a girl boss will come in and upstage or kind of render irrelevant a previous character, usually a male one, and say, well, you don't know how to use your powers, you don't know how to use your technology, step aside and let the girl boss show you how it's done. They do not go down that road in this movie. And obviously, we've all been kind of conditioned by Disney now to expect that. So it's just a relief to see that, yeah, the Baba Yaga is feared and respected throughout this movie by everybody, including the ballerina herself. And their battle, it's fucking cool. Like, never at any point are they like locked in an arm wrestling match where like Keanu's like, oh, or anything stupid like that, which like you would definitely see in a Disney show or movie. If she's doing well, she's doing something well in a convincing fashion. Like, oh, gotcha. Well, because she's like, fighting dirty, it makes sense she would get the upper hand here. But also you get the sense that John Wick doesn't want to kill her, doesn't want to hurt her, so he's holding back a little bit. And then they develop a really cool respect and rapport and ultimately end up working together. And that's when I started getting goosebumps. When John Wick basically joins her side as opposed to stopping her in her current revenge quest, I had the goosebumps the size of grapefruits in my arm. I was like, fuck yeah. Finally, an action franchise, a big Hollywood franchise that's not betraying its fan base. It's making a movie like basically single-mindedly engineered to delight the fan base. And it was just so fucking fun to see Keanu Reeves, who's old as hell now, still doing it. Something about his body language and his posture and the way he's reloading guns, and like he hasn't lost any of that muscle memory. And I really hope they'll find a way to give us one more John Wick movie. But basically now they've made 4.5 John Wick movies, and I think all the fans of the first 4 movies definitely need to give this movie at least, at a minimum, a fair chance. Because in the end, when it comes to fans of the action genre, we're not that hard to please. Like, it's nice when we get a great sci-fi epic or killer new movie like Predator or RoboCop or Aliens or whatever, but we don't demand that every time a bet. All we demand are a few cool characters, some cool choreography, if possible, a good photographic style, and a few beautiful women, and or just one ridiculously beautiful woman. Like I said, Ana de Armas, in her wardrobe and in her posture. Like, she's not dressed like a stripper or anything like that, but she's definitely dressed in sexy fashion. And it's cool seeing a sexy girl with knives and hatchets and throwing stars and bazookas and flamethrowers fucking people up. It's not that complicated. Like, when I hear about people trying and failing to write a new Blade movie for 5 years, I'm like, it's not that hard. Blade hunts vampires and kills them, and then he goes home, and that's the movie. And it's like, you're overcomplicating it if you can't understand that simple premise. And the writers and the director and the stars of Ballerina, or From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, they understand what makes this franchise tick. So for the fifth movie, obviously there's the TV show The Continental, which I've not seen. I think I saw the first episode. I can't even remember. But I think it's very hard to have a movie franchise transition into a TV franchise, or vice versa. There are a few exceptions, like Penguin was a great spinoff of the Batman. But in general, I feel like movie franchises should stay on the big screen. TV franchises should stay on the small screen. But as the fifth John Wick movie, it's definitely not going to bring the franchise down. It's not going to hurt the brand equity or anything like that. If anything, it might elevate it just because it keeps it alive. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if over the course of the weekend you see on iTunes or whatever platform people like to buy their movies on, or Prime Video or whatever, if you start seeing a lot of people renting the old John Wick movies, because after they see this movie, they're going to want to step back into that world for a few more viewing sessions. So there it is. Those are my thoughts on Ballerina. Perhaps a little long, perhaps some boring villains, but overall a very satisfying, effective action movie. And I suspect it'll be one of the more enjoyable, entertaining movies of the summer. The question now is just how well will it perform. The fact that its budget is down around like 80 or 90 million is going to help. And Lionsgate needs a win at this point. Lionsgate had a horrible 2024, and I don't know what's been going on over at Lionsgate recently, but they've been having far more misses than hits as of late. It'd be nice to see Lionsgate get some points on the scoreboard and say, see, we can still do it. But obviously, they've got Hunger Games and they've got John Wick. Those are the two big franchises. So it's time to ask Keanu Reeves how much it would cost to come back and do one more, because I would kill to see a movie where Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves team up for a proper Ballerina John Wick hybrid movie. I mean, this one, he's in it, but he's not like a major player. I would love to see like a buddy movie with the two of them working together, because their chemistry is incredible. So bring it on. Lionsgate, if you're taking requests, that's what I want. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope everybody has a great weekend at the movies, but more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.